Alright guys, welcome back. GM Light here, and today we're going to be talking about Chucky. I just recently caught up on the new season. We're about that halfway point. We're taking a break right now until we get the second half of the season, and so far I've really enjoyed this season 3. Not to say that I didn't enjoy season 2, but there's something that I want to talk about that I think has been a great improvement, and it's that I think they fixed Chucky's character. My main problem with season 2 was that it felt like they started to throw the rules out the window a little bit. They were getting a little too crazy. They made it a little bit too easy for him to just switch bodies, have another copy, be somewhere else, be anyone else, and it started to feel like they were treating the rules of the world a little bit too flippantly. Sometimes it would create for some of the more fun scenarios and kind of ideas in the second season, but it got to a point where I think they needed to rein it in and they didn't know when to stop. The main issue, besides just kind of the silliness, I prefer more of the tone of the first 3-4 Chucky movies. Curse of Chucky, Chucky season 1. What I think the main problem with what they did was they started to remove the stakes of the series. There's no investment in Chucky's character. There's no worry or harm in actually losing him when it feels like he could just always upload himself to another doll, make another copy, keep going. And that's something that they honed in on season 3 and made him vulnerable again. I'm a lot more attached to the character when there's one of him. You could kind of attach to one main Chucky doll. I thought the idea in Cult of Chucky was pretty cool, interesting, and it was another way to reinvent itself as a franchise. That's what this series has done best, and I think that's why it's been able to survive longer than I'm pretty sure any other slasher franchise, at least as one coherent timeline, is because every movie they find a new way to evolve the character, reinvent itself, find something new, find a new idea, do something interesting and different. But the problem with season 2 was it was kind of doing that in a way that was at the same time being detrimental to Chucky as a character. What was great about season 1 was they brought it back to basics, and they still had all that crazy stuff in there, but you still kind of had that harness to Chucky of feeling like it was this one doll doing all these things. It felt like classic Chucky. And that's what's great about season 3 is that you feel like you're getting classic Chucky. You're getting the setting of the White House, which I think is really cool and interesting, but you're also getting this different shade to him where you have a time clock. Some of the good stuff in Child's Play 2 especially was that running time clock of he was running out of time, transfer his soul into another body, and it was going to become a problem for him. Having those obstacles for him makes him more interesting, makes him more compelling, and it also makes him more desperate. There's a lot more to attach to when he's actually trying to stay alive, desperate, trying to find a way to get out of his body. But when you have 100 other copies of him, different iterations of him, and there's no fear on his end of dying, it just overall makes him a bit less interesting, and you don't really feel the stakes and the weight of the series. With this, with Chucky getting old, with him being desperate, and kind of this plot that he has in this third season, you actually are able to ground the series a bit more and kind of bring it back to what's great about the franchise to begin with. I haven't really talked about this franchise much on my YouTube, but Chucky is probably my favorite horror icon. He has been since I was a kid. I love all the movies, and I'll probably do a review series at some point for him when the time's right. But he's a very timeless character, and there's a reason that he's stood the test of time nearly 40 years now. He's got an interesting personality, which sets him a cut above a lot of other slasher villains that can be kind of boring, silent. He has a very unique design, a unique personality, and the voice acting is just so iconic and unique to him, to the point where people were incredibly outraged when they did a remake with a different cast and a different voice actor, even though it was Mark Hamill. There's a passionate fan base behind this character in the series, and it felt like in season 2 they were just starting to strain credibility a bit. It was getting to be a little bit out of hand, and with this new season they fixed him. Especially in episode 1, they kind of brought it back to that more mysterious aspect of Chucky, not exactly showing him outright in the beginning, kind of building tension, suspense, setting it back to very much a feeling of what the old movies were like. I know that some people have a lot of frustrations with this kind of cyclical aspect to the series. I like to get a little bit of both, but I do think that it's gotten to a point where every other entry is the serious grounded one, and then every other one is the one that gets goofy, gets a little bit too out of control, and kind of your tolerance for that is a lot of what I would base that off of. For me, I'm definitely more on the side of Past Bride of Chucky, going more with the mood of Curse of Chucky, Chucky season 1, and so far season 3, even though season 3 still has some of that goofiness to it. Most of it related to Jennifer Tilly, but it's forgivable because the main central story, what they're doing with Chucky, is they're making all the right moves to correct his character, put it in a new direction that I think will win a lot of the fans back over. It's easy to lose them when there's no investment, when they feel like every Chucky is just kind of expendable and that there isn't one central 1-2 attached to. Now that you actually have this character in a centralized form that can be the antagonist of the series again, and they also put him at a huge advantage by having him in the White House, probably the most secure building in America. It leaves for a pretty interesting, precarious situation for Jake, Devin, and Lexi to try and get to him. And this is the beauty of the franchise, is that it finds new ways to bring fans back, get everybody back on board, make them all back into the franchise. And some of it's kind of segregated into those fans that like the goofier stuff and the fans that like the more serious stuff. I think that 3 could strike a potential perfect middle ground between the two that doesn't alienate anybody. But the main thing that they needed to get right, get back to basics on, was just getting Chucky back on course. And I think they did that. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'd love to hear. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.